is a podcast that we have started to do, covering time capsules all across the world. It is a series. We have another great guest to you today from England, Steve Grummitt. So each week on Time with Elyse, for those of you who are not familiar, we're going to be talking to a time capsuler about their time capsule project. Now, all of our time capsulers, they come from all over the world, social clubs, activists, organizations, families, towns, you name it, we have it. So we will be exploring their motivations, the contents in the time capsule, and then the time capsule records. We want to talk about the world where they're going to be opened up. And, today we're going to bring on Steve to talk about his extensive time capsule project. They have 9 time capsules, and we're going to hop right in. So here we go. I'm going to bring on Steve. Hey, Steve, how you do today?
Okay, Elyse, and you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited to have you on today to talk about your time capsule projects.
That's our pleasure to talk to everybody about what we did over 10 or 11 years ago.
Yes, exactly. And you put a lot of work into it. I can see it on your end. So first, for those of my audience members don't know you very well, tell me a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and then we'll go right into the time capsuling era.
Can I just say that he's come up as Steve Pullbrook?
Oh my gosh.
On my screen.
That's weird. Oops,
I've changed my name.
No, nothing like that. My bad, wrong one. But no, different Steve Grummitt. So please tell me all about. We actually have a lot of Steves on the podcast, it seems like. But okay. Tell me all about yourself. Introduce yourself so we can get a better idea of who you are.
Right. As you said, my name is Steve Grummitt. I'm a member of the Lions Club in Tavistock, which is a small county town in the county of Devon, which is in the southwest of England, about 300 kilometres southwest of London. So that gives you some idea of where we are. It's a beautiful part of the country. It's a very popular area for holidays, and we're on the edge of Dartmoor National Park. So a lovely setting, although it does tend to be slightly wet from time to time, but so we have to live with that. So for those of you who don't know about Lions Clubs, it started in 1917 in Chicago by a chap called Melvin Jones, and it developed from there. It became international. Our local club was formed in 1976, and there are something like 46,000 clubs across the world with about 1.4 million members. So wow. We are the largest non-governmental service organization in the world. So we work with our local community, we help out in the community, we raise money for local charities, we run carnivals, firework displays, and so that's what we're always busy. It's a voluntary organization. We've got around about 36 members, male and female. Wow. Quite a wide range of ages, from mid-30s up to 80 plus. So some of them not quite so active as others. But, so back in 1998, going back quite a few years, the club decided that, we thought we'd try and decide how we would celebrate the coming of the new millennium. And we discussed various projects, and we came up with the idea of marking the boundary of the parish of our town significantly, where the direction of the boundary changed. And it's about the boundary is about 12 miles long. So we mapped the boundary, and we found 28 locations where the direction significantly changed. And on those points, we installed 15 granite marker stones, which were engraved with MM for the millennium, T for Tavistock, and G or whatever for the other adjacent parish. There were 6 oak posts where it was very difficult to get the stones to. And we also planted 1 tree, which was quite small back in about 2000. But I did go back and see it a few months ago, and it's a beautiful oak tree, and it's really growing quite well. So I was quite pleased to see it.
That sounds beautiful. And I was looking at some of the pictures, so I could see that there are these big stones that you've placed, right?
Yeah, they all came from Merivale, which is a local granite quarry. As I said, Dartmoor is a national park. It's principally made of granite, a very hard stone, and there's a redundant quarry, which allowed us, and the owners allowed us to go in and choose the stones. And there's a really large stone, which I think you've got a picture of,
Yes.
which is a big celebration stone that we installed in one of the areas in Tavistock. And under nine of the time capsules, under nine of the boundary markers, we have buried time capsules. So, because and that took place, it was spread over about a couple of years, because right in the middle of that we had foot and mouth in the UK. So that stopped us accessing a lot of land areas. So we had to, so a lot of it was delayed for various reasons.
Got it. Yeah, I wanted to show our listeners the photos because they're wonderful. So here they are. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see that one. That is probably about 4 to 5 feet across and 3 to 4 feet in depth. And so it, as I said, it says Tavistock. I can't remember what it said. Tavistock Town Boundary. Town Council, the Lions Club of Tavistock, T for Tavistock, AD 2000, and W for Whitchurch, which is the name of the adjacent parish. And underneath that, the mayor, Judith Williams, and I buried a time capsule containing materials from supplied by the town council itself. There were minutes of their meeting, there were past mayoral badges, various booklets on the town. So that is buried under there, and hopefully it's still there.
Yes.
Nobody's going to move that stone because it must weigh a few tons. So
yes, it seems very heavy.
We had great fun getting that into position. Fortunately, the stone masons, they knew what they were doing, and they managed to manoeuvre it off their truck down some planks into position. They had to get it right the first time, otherwise we would have had problems in moving it. So underneath there is a time capsule that we buried, I think in May 2000. And we did have a celebration walk where we walked part of the boundary, because there is a tradition in the UK of beating the bounds of, which is a religious, it's a religious festival, and where the vicar or the leader of the church takes parishioners around and they effectively walk or beat the boundary. So we did a part of the boundary walk on that date, and then had a little party at the end of it. So
and that's what your burial.
That's me on the right, and Judith Williams, the mayor, and our time capsule that we're holding before it was buried.
Incredible. So tell me, what is in that time capsule?
That from the town council, they put in minutes of some council meetings. Very interesting, I'm sure. There was various booklets from the town council and about the town, and a past mayor's badge. Some of the time capsules have got electronic media in there, and I don't know what sort of state that's going to be in 100 years' time, or whether anybody will be able to read it or access it in 100 years' time. We're just about to do another time capsule for another project, which we'll talk about later on, which we told them we don't want any electronic media in there, just paper documents. So,
just to be extra safe, right?
Yes, to be safe.
And I want to show you dudes, I'm having a bit trouble loading, but I've just gotten it. So there's that one, there's this picture, and explain this. So for those of you who are listening in on the podcast, it's audio and visual, so someone can't see this. What exactly is this? This is what you put into it, right?
Yes, well, that is a document because we were asked. We found that we could register the location of these time capsules with the International Time Capsule Society,
Yeah.
which was based in Oglethorpe University,
Yes.
and that's what we did. We also registered them with the British Museum,
Oh wow.
and when we were planning on doing the next one, I contacted them, and they had no record whatsoever, and they had no idea of what I was talking about. So, which was rather sad. So
Yeah.
for every time capsule that we buried, we filled in one of those forms online and emailed it over to the university. I think it's in Atlanta.
Oh,
So,
right. Okay.
but uh, it was a what prompted all this. I was looking on the website, and it didn't seem that any of our time capsules were identified. So
Mm,
only within the last year or so, I suppose, during our lockdown for
mm,
COVID, for something to do, I thought, well,
yeah.
I'll just go and have it online and have a look, and none of them were listed. So that
Interesting.
prompted me to contact the university or the institute, and that's what all started all this, I suppose, that you've
Yeah.
become involved, and which is great. You know, it's nice that the people are interested, and as you said, they are all over the world, and it's nice to be part of that little community or big community, really,
Yeah.
of
No, definitely.
time capsulers, as you said.
Exactly.
So,
And
I mean,
we have
it
so many
wasn't.
people scattered as well. So you're
Yeah.
you're amongst the many, but you are, the only one in your area who's made nine. So it's an honor to kind of have you on to talk about your experience. You clearly
Yeah.
like making them.
I mean, it was a great team effort. You know, the team of us up at the quarry for selecting stones. We got a local stonemason whose main job is doing headstones for great graveyards. So he
Wow.
did all the engraving for us. We got various grants from the local council and various other organisations, from ourselves, from the local history society, to finance. It wasn't a huge amount of money, probably a couple of $1,000s, I suppose, altogether. Mainly the main cost was the engraving of all the
Yeah.
stones, because we didn't have to pay for any of the stones. It was the engraving that cost the money.
Yeah. I can imagine. And this is like on your record through the International Time Capsule Society. You have all of the documents here. This one, for example, the Tavistock County Primary School. There,
Tavistock County Primary, yes, they
yes,
were one of the. So a lot of them were schools. Um, so out of the nine, we have seven schools, and then we had the town council and the Tavistock Times Gazette, which is our local newspaper, and
okay,
they put in back copies of their paper, and so that, you know, and also they gave us good coverage. I mean, I don't know if you have pictures of the press coverage that
yeah,
we sent over to you, but we have a good relationship with our local media, and but at that time, Facebook, you know, all those sort of things didn't exist, you know, 20
yeah,
years ago. So it was all local paper and local radio and TV. So, but mainly the local paper. So
yeah.
yes, you've got all the documents there, and obviously we have a similar form to fill in for our new time capsule when we bury that in September.
Yes. So that's great. So for those of you who just logged on, you're listening to the podcast. We have Steve on, and he has nine time capsules. Seven are schools, one is a council, and one is a newspaper. So they've all been done collaboratively through him and his team. And tell me, why are these so meaningful to you? Why have you decided to make so many for different kinds of, groups?
Well, it was because we wanted to involve particularly the schools, and so wherever the school nearest to that time capsule that we were burying, we got them involved. We gave them the project of deciding what to put in. It was entirely up to them. We just gave them some guidance, and you know they put in various calendars, college prospectus, a Harry Potter book, which is obviously was very popular. Well, it still is, but popular, very popular at that time. Some coins, drawings from pupils, letters from pupils. So school, pieces of school uniform, school badges, school tie. So. Wow. So that's why we got the schools involved. So most of the and schools and the local college, couple of colleges. So that's all within the parish of Tavistock.
Yeah, and you buried the school ones for 100 years, correct?
Yeah, they're all buried for 100 years, and I've got it marked in my diary to make sure that.
So you'll be there.
They'll have to dig me up with the time capsule. It does make me wonder how people. I mean, we have lodged records with the town council, with the local museum, and with the local library. It does make me wonder how people are going to know that in 100 years they've got to dig these time capsules up. Somebody needs to put a reminder in their forward planner somewhere to to remember. So there was a case of a local press photographer that a time capsule that was buried for 30 years. He was there taking photographs when it was buried, and he was there taking photographs when it was actually dug up. So, wow. But that was only 30 years. That was the whole of his sort of working life, really. So, so he did see it going in. He saw it coming out. But that's not going to be our case, I'm afraid.
No, but
as much as we'd like to be around.
I mean, 100 years is a lot. I know 150 is 5 generations of your family. So this is what four something generations of your family.
Yeah.
So the preservation is there, and you guys have done it in a great way. You've done so many of them. Have you done them all the same way? Like, what have you buried them in? You know, with
we bought. I think they were core sample tubes. They were aluminium. They're about. I'm just trying to think. They're about. About 3 foot, 2 foot long, 3 foot long, about 6 inches in diameter. They've got screw cap ends, which we sealed with Teflon tape to stop the moisture getting in, and then we sealed them in heat sealed them into very heavy duty polythene tubes. So with the hope of keeping them dry, they were all buried. They were all done exactly the same, and we had a lovely photo, and I think I sent it to you of that particular photographer I was talking about earlier. He put his camera in the hole and put it on a time delay, so he could then. So when it went off, it took a picture of the children up above holding the time capsule. He did get his camera out before they buried it, so. So that was a nice picture. That was
good fun.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah, lovely picture of these children burying their primary school time capsule.
Yes.
And they're going to be able to kind of. I hope they all receive this picture. Their families have it. It's great.
Yes. And, all of the schools received certificates and copies of the registration. Whether they've still got them on file, and they will have them on file in 100 years, whether the schools will exist, we don't know. Whether we will exist in 100 years, you never know.
Right.
All this global warming and fires and the extremes of weather all over the world is quite scary, really.
Yeah, it is. We're definitely in this weird time in life, but I do want to show just all these photos. Sometimes they take a bit to load, but they're really great, and you guys have definitely, put the effort into capturing them. And it's funny because these time capsules are small, but these kids are also so small, so it looks very large in her hand.
Yeah, that was the same one where you took the picture in the ground. That's them. Yes. Aww. Yeah, they thoroughly enjoyed it. So this is something that's relatively new. That's as I say, during lockdown, that I started looking at it, and then I registered them all again, and then got these certificates you've just shown. And I've got this is my Millennium. Whoops, I can see
Yes,
it. My
yes.
Millennium project folder, which has got all of those photographs and all the certificates in. So,
So you have everything in one safe place.
Yeah, and I did about 7 copies of that. There's one with the town council. There's one in the library. There's one in the museum. There's one my one. So there's a lot of 7 copies were produced, and all of it's on CD as well. So,
oh wow! So you have everything.
It was a interesting project, and a lot of people took a lot of enjoyment out of it in burying it and digging the holes, putting in the posts, and putting in the granite stones, and in burying the time capsules. So it was great fun for everybody, and I said it spread over really almost 4 years from the original start in '98 to when we finished probably in about 2002. So they've say it was delayed because of, we didn't do anything until the start of the millennium, and then we had the problems with foot and mouth, which stopped us accessing a lot of the land because we weren't allowed to.
Yeah. I've also just pulled up the the press package, which I'm going to try to get you in there.
There we go.
But talk to us through this. There you are. So you guys, I was going to say, because time capsules have, long held fascination for a lot of people. So I was going to ask if you had any press coverage. You clearly have. So talk us through what you've sent over.
Okay. Perhaps if I could look at the original, it might be easier. If I can just hang on. I'll just put it.
Oh yes, this is on the screen for our viewers to watch. So again, for everyone who's here, Steve is currently taking us through his journey of time capsules that he's done all across England, 9 in total, and he's doing another one, so doing double digits of time capsules in September. And hopefully we can have you back on in September. You can tell us more about the next one that you do.
Okay, well, these are articles from the Tavistock Times Gazette that had owned one of the time capsules, and the first one, Lion's idea for Millennium, is set in stone, really clever. So that was done in December 1998 when we publicised what we were going to do, and it was really explaining what the project was going to be about. And then you've got other press coverage there in 2000, and the picture at the bottom was the burial of the town council one. There's the vicars there, and the history society, and myself, and so that was celebrating the official stone. And then there's another sheet showing lots of others. That's it. Sorry, they're a little bit dark, but these are the various schools and colleges. The one at the very top is the Tavistock Times Gazette, and that's the photographer I was talking about, James, on the left-hand side, and Lynn, who was the general manager and also one of our club members at the time.
Oh,
so
cool.
and still with us. So it shows various presidents and teachers, and there we are handing over the copies of that book that I just made. So they've got there's Norman Woodcock, who was the mayor then, John Rawlings, the vicar, Jeff Bassington, who was part of the Tavistock Museum, and myself. So that's we made sure that so many organisations have got copies of it, because they were all involved in it in one way or the other, because the History Society gave us some money towards the project. So it was a great project, and it's nice to be, it was nice to sort of to look back on it for something that happened probably, I'm saying 20 odd years ago.
Yeah. And even that coverage was from 2004, so it's been quite a while, and you were
Yeah.
able to look back on it. So yeah, that's amazing, and I'm sure that people will remember it considering the amount of press that you've had with it. And I'm sure in the schools that they're going to, do they have anything telling them that they've made a time capsule? This school has a time capsule.
But I mean, we did. They all. We did certificates for all of them. All of the schools had. I should have sent you. Let's see if I can find you one. That's in my folder. They all had certificates. Well,
Well, yeah, because a lot of time capsules are lost. So physical time
yeah.
capsules.
So they all had that. That's the town council one.
Yeah.
And that's tells you where it is. It's got a map reference, so people know exactly where it is, and the date and who's in the picture. And that, so you've seen that. What you saw that earlier. So,
Yeah, that's great,
so
and that's
all of the schools have got copies of those. So and the registration documents we had from the International Time Capsule Society. So yeah, overall, it costs just under about $2,500, I suppose, altogether. But we had grants from the National Park, the Civic Society, but the biggest cost was the collection and engraving of the
yeah,
of the granite. Obviously,
yeah,
but everything else, the granite itself was free, but obviously we had to employ the Pascos, the stonemasons, to go and collect all the stones and engrave them and then deliver them to us.
yeah, and you,
About it was £2,400. So must be about $2,800, I suppose.
for all nine.
Wasn't yeah. So that was for all, and because we did put some where we couldn't get access for the stones, we put in sort of 6-inch square oak posts, and they've lasted. We did have to cut down a couple that were rotting where they'd gone into the ground, so we shortened them a bit and re-cemented them into the ground. So they're still going strong, and the tree is growing beautifully. I was
Yeah,
quite pleased. It was nice to go and see the tree was still there, and the fence that what we put around it was gone, but the little plaque that engraved plaque that we put there when the owner was there was still there, but just on a piece of wood stuck in the tree. It wasn't on the fence anymore because that had collapsed and gone a long time ago. So
wow. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey for you guys, and I mean
yeah, it's great.
yeah, and to ensure that your descendants and everyone in the future will be able to find it, that's why you have it all mapped out, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because a lot of people want to make time capsules for their schools and they don't quite know how to do it. So I was hoping you could maybe give them some advice since you've done 7 for schools.
It's just, there's a lot of advice online you can find these days, which I think probably 20 or plus years ago, it wasn't available. I mean, now the one that we're just about to do for the Guildhall. I mean, we bought a different.
Oh,
This is a new time capsule that we're about to bury for the Tavistock Heritage Trust.
yeah.
And this is sold and good old Amazon. You get everything on Amazon, can't you? So we've bought the Lions have financed that. So we've got 3 schools, the town council and the Heritage Trust involved in providing materials to go into that one. So that's the one we're planning to bury on the 18th of September.
Wow.
The reason for that in Tavistock was is a very old town. It was there was a medieval monastery here that eventually Henry VIII decided to get rid of in the 1500s, and then all the land was given to the Russell family, who became the Dukes of Bedford. And in the sort of 1800s, the Duke redeveloped the whole of Tavistock. He pulled it, flattened it, and rebuilt it. And part of it was the Guildhall complex, which at that time had a police station and a magistrates court all in one building. It was the first all-purpose, if you like, legal court in the country. So the prisoners were into the police station, charged into the cells, along the corridor, and then up into the middle of the courtroom. Wow. So that's now been vacated by the police and the court, and it is being turned as we speak into a heritage centre, because Devon and Cornwall had a very extensive mining industry back in the 1900s, tin, arsenic, copper. That's where a lot of the money came from. So the Guildhall is being turned into a heritage centre for mining. And in fact, the Cornwall and West Devon mining area is a World Heritage Site, like the Taj Mahal, Hadrian's Wall, Great Barrier Reef. So we are in a World Heritage area. And so we are, it should have been open last year, but because of COVID and the pandemic, it's all been delayed. So that's opening hopefully in October. But in front of that was quite a large car park, which has been revamped, and there was a statue of one of the Dukes of Bedford, so that's been moved. And at his feet, we're going to bury a new time capsule, because the architect said, well, why don't we mark this new project and let's do a time capsule.
Wow.
And so the chair of the trustees thought, well, the Lions did their last lot of time capsules. So as I was involved, led the project, I picked up this one, and I've sort of coordinated this with the schools, with the help of teachers and various other people. And so that's going to be buried on, as I said, on the 18th of September at the feet of one of the Dukes of Bedford, so to mark the opening of the Heritage Centre. So, so if you're ever in Tavistock,
it's funny. My stepmom, my dad actually live in London, so I might be in England at some point if COVID ever.
Yeah, well, come down to the southwest. It's a lovely part of the country. We've got some beautiful coastline around here. It's very popular and gets, unfortunately, because everybody's doing staycations this year.
Yeah,
it's getting a bit crowded, but
getting a bit busy.
And Tavistock is a lovely market town. We've lived here since 1978. We moved down from the southeast of England when the company I work for moved down. So we've never looked back. It's nice to go back to London occasionally for the buzz, but I can't remember the last time I did it.
Well, you've been in that area so long, it must be nice to see how it's changing, right? Just the buildings that go up and down, and the way that things evolve with time.
Yeah, some things are good, some things are not quite so good. When you see so many houses, we desperately need houses and for people to live in, and then they go and build them in the most unusual places, and you think they shouldn't build them on greenfield sites. There's plenty of brownfield sites they can occupy. You're losing farmland, and but people need homes. But then they say it's the youngsters who need the homes, and they go and build 4 or 5 bedroom houses that the youngsters just can't afford. So anyway, we're deviating from time capsules. So.
No, that's interesting though. The way that even the area changes with the times, right? Like, and the way that things are kind of laid out. We see that now. We see that with colleges. We've brought on guests that have wished they could put video in their time capsule to kind of say, this is what my area looks like in 2020, and then compare it in 20 years from now and see what's changed.
Well, the 3 schools that we got involved with for the new time capsule, we asked them to write a letter to their,
love that,
I suppose it's going to be what their great grandparents or great great grandparents
Great. Three
about what
generations of us.
about. I can never work out what the relationship. I mean, the chances are. I mean, a young child in primary school could be alive in 100 years' time. I mean, people are living longer. They'd be pretty ancient. They'd be 106 or 107. It's possible they could be alive, but probably not that likely. But so we asked them to write a letter to their relations saying, what it was like at this time of the year. Oh, and one of the things obviously we have to put in this is one of the I haven't got one. Is a mask, of course.
Of course, yes.
Yes, I have to just suddenly thought I'll have to dig one out, a nice clean one.
Yes,
and make sure that goes into the time capsule. So it's a very unusual time, and they've written some lovely letters about that. So I've got to make sure I can get everything into the time capsule because there's quite a lot of material that's come out for the schools and the council and the trust, and I've got to try and squeeze it all into this time capsule before it's buried.
I mean, it seems like you've accumulated a lot of things to put in it, so I guess that leads me to my next question. Do you think that time capsules are a useful way of preserving history?
Yes, I mean, it gives people a sort of, if they remember, if it is dug up in 100 years' time, it will give them a snapshot of what life was like, 100 years before that, and in the words of the people who were living at that time, rather than reading it in a history book. It's real, it's live history, if you like, and they can probably, it's like listening to, almost listening to somebody who was alive 100 years ago. You can read what they're saying rather than somebody's impression in a book. So exactly. Yes, I think that they have their place, and as long as people remember to dig them up, that is the thing, isn't it? It's making sure that somebody knows that they're there, and that in 100 years' time, I think. When we're going to put a marker stone over this new time capsule, I think what I want them to do is to put the to be opened date on it, so that there is a reminder there that in 20 it's going to be 2121. That's right, isn't it? 2121. That it needs to be opened. Hopefully nobody beats them to it when they take the stone off. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. That is an issue with things being forgotten, but I think just mapping it out and then hoping that the right person knows about it and passes down that message throughout time. Yeah. But I mean,
you do wonder what the world is going to be like in 100 years' time. I mean,
exactly. And
you've had the extremes of temperature in Canada and the West Coast and America, the horrendous fires and then flooding in Central Europe, and then the horrendous fires in Greece at the moment, and Siberia, and the world's going crazy. And
I saw that yesterday. I saw that Greek island.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, we see pictures obviously when hurricanes go through various places in America and wipe out total towns. I mean, how do you cope with that? I mean, do they rebuild, and knowing next year there's going to be another hurricane coming through to wipe it all out again? And why live there? But that's their home, isn't it? And like Tavistock is our home.
Exactly.
Fortunately, we don't have the extremes of we do get heavy rain from time to time, but not. I don't think we've had any serious flooding for at least 40 or 50 years here. I mean, we do have a river going through called the Tavistock, which is where Tavistock gets its name from. So that flows down into the Tamar, which goes into the sea at Plymouth. Old Plymouth, not New Plymouth.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice that you had a river running through. So my question was, is it anywhere near where you buried your time capsules? Because, data rot and then physical rot are like the enemies of time capsules. And a lot of people, they do certain things to ensure that theirs are able to survive to its opening date, the best of their ability. But if time capsules are buried in the ground, sometimes the water is so strong it can move them around. So tell me, have you
Well,
guys thought about, your proximity to the river?
yeah, none of them were anywhere near standing or running water. And we did, as I said, heat. You could see in some of those pictures, we heat sealed them into very heavy duty polythene tubing to try and protect them from the water, from moisture. So I think, if I remember rightly, we did put some silica gel capsules or tablets in the time capsules as well. So it would be
Yeah,
interesting to know what state the thing work is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I don't think that one's got one on it. But I don't. So one of the schools ones had the envelope on it.
oh,
So,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
it'd be nice to see in 100 years' time what what state the material is inside there. It'd be interesting. But I'm not going to know. And not even you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that gel, what is that? I haven't heard of that before.
It absorbs moisture. I mean,
Oh,
a
okay.
lot of things you buy, electronics will come with a little sachet saying
Oh,
silica gel,
yes. Got it.
just to keep in. If you buy a new phone, I think you probably find that's in the box just to absorb any moisture.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
idea.
what it's there for.
Well, hopefully, those little bits and pieces that you threw in will help it get to its opening date. But I guess my question and what I always wonder about is what do you think the world will be like, in 100 years, in 2121, when this time capsule is hopefully being opened?
Difficult question.
It's a loaded question for sure. But
Yeah, I don't think I don't even know what it's going to be like next year, let alone
I,
in a hundred years' time. With obviously there's a lot of talk about global warming. I don't think you. I mean, there are a lot of doubters saying, "Oh, it's fake news, fake news." Who said that? um, but I don't think it is. I mean, you could just see it by the extremes of weather we're getting at the moment, and unless we it's becoming a bit political now, isn't it? I mean, unless we do
yeah,
something
it
about
is.
carbon emissions, I think it does make you wonder what the world is going to be like in 100 years' time. All right,
Yeah.
we're getting rid of in this country, getting rid of cars that are run on petrol and diesel, so we're all going to be electric. But then we've got to generate the electricity. So
Exactly. That's
or
where it
perhaps
gets
you all go around with cars with big solar panels on the roof. So.
yes.
I mean, there is a lot of natural resources. I mean, water you can use for tidal power or hydroelectric power. The sun, more and more solar panels. People having solar panels on their roofs. A lot more wind power. A lot of wind farms around. So we are trying to make use of sustainable energy
Yeah.
and get away from the reliance on coal and oil. So as long as everybody does that, but then you've got huge countries like China, and how do you, and America, of course, as well. Huge coal lobbies in Australia, huge biggest coal exporter in the world, I think, Australia. So
Wow, really? Huh.
I think so. Yeah. So talking to an Aussie the other day who was doing some work in my house. So I don't know what 100 years is going to be like. It's going to be a lot different to what it is now, I think.
Yeah. Well, how about an easier question? What do you think the future of technology for time capsules? What do you think that would be like? Because if we are in this day and age, we don't know what's going to happen. But do you think people will still be burying them in the earth, or do you think they'll be, in a different sense? Because
I
I
suppose,
yeah.
go on then.
Well,
I suppose that
I've always thought
can,
about, just time capsules becoming digital. So of course you have your students writing letters to their future generations. But what if the students could sit in front of a camera, the way that you and I are doing, and talk to their future descendants?
Yeah, it's whether the technology that we have now is going to be usable in 100 years' time. When you consider how technology changes so rapidly, and becomes out of date and redundant. And you can consider mobile phones. When we used to carry around a brick, and now we carry around something that's so small,
I
and you've
know.
got more power on that, processing power on that, than they had probably in the computer that filled half the building that I worked in when I first started work 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how technology is going to change. It would be great to think that that they would be able to speak to their, or have a recording that their ancestor, no, and not their
Descendants.
predecessor, no, their forward relations will be able to view.
Yeah.
That would be great. Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in the cloud? Could be. That's not one way of doing it, but nothing like the old-fashioned way of pen and paper and burying it in the ground.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to change. They can dig that up, and they can, hopefully we'll be able to read the writing. I mean, if we can translate Egyptian hieroglyphics, then I'm sure they'll
Yeah.
be able to translate a bit of written English, even if they're speaking a totally different language.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, right? The Egyptians have been making time capsules forever with the pyramids, so this is a very long tradition.
Yeah, are there still a lot of time capsules being done now? I mean, we're doing one. I mean, are there a lot of other people doing them?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's definitely one. The International Time Capsule Society, not forgotten, is the technology behind it. So they've digitized tens of thousands of time capsules across the world, and we have a map online, and you could look at every single time capsule that's ever been registered, and you could look and. We have them from Detroit to Barcelona, and there's pins all over, and you can kind of hover over and see if they're public or private and look into them.
Yeah. Well, that's what prompted me to do this. Really, was went online, and ours weren't on the map, so that's why I said, "Why aren't ours on the maps?" And that,
Yeah.
so I suppose that's where we filled in the forms again, and there they are, and now we're talking about them. So, which is
Yeah.
great. It's 20 odd years ago that we did it, and it's nice to resurrect the project, and especially as we've got a new project coming up
Yeah.
in a
Really
month's time.
timing, huh?
It was strange. So
Yes. Well, hopefully we can get that one registered on as well, because that registry
yes,
was there.
I will fill in the form online because it's slightly different now. But I've got it printed off, so I can. I know it's there, so I will do it once we've buried it, and we'll put it online, and perhaps we can talk about that again in the future. But we've covered it now, so there's not a lot more to say about it, really.
Well, I will say a lot of people would ask you, right? There's been so many made. Why do you think they're so meaningful? Why do you keep making them? And then tell us a little bit more about that before we have to say goodbye.
Well, it's, as we said earlier, it's like especially if you're reading something that has been written, you're feeling from the people who were there at the time, and it's a personal message, isn't it? Rather than reading a book, or so I think that's why it has a lot more meaning, I think. And the
Yeah.
mementos of the time, and the bit of school uniform and a school magazine, you can appreciate what life was like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a good picture of life 100 years back. So
Yeah.
yes, it has its place, and I'd be nice if we knew of some time capsules now that were being opened that were buried 100 years ago, to
Yeah.
see how they've survived. Or
Yep.
perhaps people were. When did people start doing time capsules? Then there's a
We have a
question for
lot.
you.
We have people that have opened up time capsules already. Some of them are some of them did not hold up well. So when you open them, they're newspaper articles that have gone a bit mush.
Right.
But you could look up, like, even on YouTube, there 100-year time capsules found in a U.S. church or an Indianapolis Public Library or opened in New York City. So there's tons of people opening them. And they're huge, they could be like metallic or like aluminum grade, like the one that you have, or they are military grade, like boxes, and they weld them shut, or they have, we had a man on the podcast from New Orleans who actually had the directions on how to open up the time capsule engraved on the side so that, anyone
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot that people do. And there definitely have been a ton, that have been found in all historical landmarks around the world. So I would really look into those and see how they remembered that there was a time capsule, because no one forgot about the 100-year time capsule. It was a huge thing, and people would open it and gather around, and be a lot of press and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they do the same for ours in 100 years' time.
I hope so. But, for now, do you have any advice to give to anyone who wants to create a time capsule, who maybe has never done it before and wants to start? Because it sounds like it's a fun, affordable project, but for those of, us who've never made one, any advice at all would be helpful.
What? There's so much advice online. I mean, you have to decide why you're going to do it, who you're going to get involved, what you want to put in it. Is it just for your family, or is it for your club, or is it for your community? Who's going to be involved? Where are you going to bury it? So it's not that difficult, really. I mean, it's we're doing 9, and we've got one more to come. It hasn't been that much of a problem. So the picture's gone very fuzzy.
Oh, yours or mine?
Hello. But both pictures, you was almost pixelated.
Oh no.
That's
Weird
don't know
technology.
why that's.
What about
don't
now?
mind. I can still hear you and see you. So.
Okay.
No, I can't make you out now. You're just ahead.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
Yes, something about the tech
like.
lately, but that's
all right,
wonderful.
Technology. Technology.
Yes.
Isn't it wonderful when it works?
Exactly. Now we're all in a tech world. So future of time capsules, who knows? I'm thinking more digitally, but the future of the world is still we have to figure it out. I hopefully I live another, 80 years, and then I can see what it will be like, and maybe it won't change that much from the time that your time capsule is being opened.
Yeah. Can you let me know?
What?
I'll give you my number and you can give me a call. I'm taking it with me.
Yes, if you have
I'm taking my phone with me.
It'll work. We just have to shield it from technology obsolescence, so it can actually work. But
yes, I'll make sure it's charged.
And have you told your relatives as well?
Right. Okay. Sorry?
You've told your relatives as well, right?
I beg your pardon?
You've told your relatives.
Yes, they all know about it. And...
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, well, Steve, I think something's happening with the internet, but thank you so much for coming on and joining and doing this podcast. I think it's been really interesting to learn about like how many you've had and the process that it took you to get to where you are. They're very easy to do, it seems like, and I feel like more people will be inspired to making them.
Yeah, you've come back in focus. So it's been great talking to you, Elyse, and I'll be interested to see it online. So
yes.
How do I access it myself?
I will send you all the links via email.
Okay, right. Okay, it's been great. Thank you very much for contacting us and letting me talk about it. So,
of course.
It's been great.
And please register your next one so we have it all on file.
I will indeed.
Okay. Have a great one, Steve. Thank you so much.
Okay. All the best. Nice talking to you. Okay,
guys. So that was Steve Grummitt from England. bear with us. We had a few tech issues today, but I hope that it came out well and you guys could hear it. Lovely man from England, had a lot to say about the history of where he's from, as well as the multiple time capsules that he made. So again, he made 9 time capsules. 7 were for schools. Now, for the Americans listening, primary school is elementary school, college or university is, college. So he had all different age ranges, and then he had his newspaper and then a council time capsule as well. So if you guys are thinking, I want to make a time capsule, but I have so many different elements that I want to cover, don't worry, you can do it. It's very easy. Steve did all of these, and he did this 20 years ago, and he's now on a podcast 20-something years later talking about them. So the possibilities are endless. It was really great to have him on, and I hope you guys will tune in for the next episode of the Hidden World of Time Capsules. So thank you guys so much.